Hello and welcome to the Holy Rivals Big 12 Mafia show. How's everybody doing today on a Tuesday?
What's up, Bomber? How you doing? What a weekend of football.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Immaculate and Moen, what do you got to tell us right here at the beginning?
It was a great weekend of football, followed up by a great weekend of conference realignment talk. Who would have thought?
Absolutely, and we're going to get into that in depth, believe me. I think the most important thing is when people are watching our show, they don't know what to plan for. So I really appreciate that. Before we get started, let's do a little business. Welcome to the show. We do two shows here during the week. One is the Holy Rivals and one's Big 12 Mafia. And for a little bit longer, they're going to be the same, but starting this weekend. And we're going to just throw the gauntlet down and say Saturday, we are going to actually kick off with the Holy Rivals show. And we invite everybody. We're going to send out engraved invitations so everybody knows when that channel and show kicks off. It's already in existence, but we're going to separate it. We are going to divorce it from the Mafia channel. And what we're hoping is that...
Sorry, Phil. I thought that was the clap.
Moan.
That's okay.
I thought you were going for the clap.
No, I appreciate that. So let's
Anyways.
talk about that really quick. So Moen has got himself a soundboard, and he has an open invite to do any sounds that appeal to him. But if he pisses me off, we're going to kick him off the show. So that'll have to be something we work on. But we're excited about that because the show is growing and we really like having more and more stuff added to it. And a soundboard is definitely one of those things. So bear with us. We might talk over each other a little bit. We might have some overlapping graphics or sounds. Please just bear with us. And I guarantee you we'll get better at it. So anyways, please subscribe to this channel. If you have time, go over to the Holy Rivals channel on YouTube. Subscribe to that too. Please leave us a comment or a question and let us know how we're doing. And turn on your notifications.
Yeah, turn those on. Please turn those on. It's a huge for us, huge for the algorithm, so others can find us and we can build this community. So turn those notifications on. So important, guys. So thanks for considering it.
And the notifications are on both. Notifications are on Twitter as well. So please go in and look at our contact and hit that little option that says you want to see all posts and replies, because that'll mean you're never out of the loop. And I would say that for all four of us. That includes Mafia, it includes Holy Rivals, it includes Immaculate, it includes Moen, it includes Wild Ute. And while we're at it, it includes Greg Flugar. Go through, and these people that we really care about, Greg being the top of that list, not excluding anybody else, but please turn those on, because we as creators, content creators, we live and breathe with some of the stuff that we put out on Twitter, and it's important, and you don't always get it on our YouTube shows. So we really want to encourage you to do that. So turn on your notifications on Twitter and on YouTube, and we'll be good to go. So as I need to dig up a graphic, what I'd like to do is let's talk about this last weekend. And Ute, obviously, as being partner on the show, tell us kind of your feelings about Utah, about BYU, and then we'll go from you to Immaculate, and then we'll finish with Moen.
Who am I, sir? Utah man am I? Oh, y'all, that win was so good. The Utah UCLA game, I'll tell you what, in person it was hard to watch. It really was. I'm sure on TV it was even harder. But the Ute offense struggling, but the Ute defense got it done. Top 3 defense in the nation. So here are the takeaways. The Utes won the football game based on the pass rush and getting to Dante Moore early, often. First play of the game, a pick 6. That was the difference maker. It was loud at the stadium, a lot of juice and everything. And we can see, there was a lot of chippiness too. UCLA is not coming back. So this is the last time we're going to play those guys for a long time. So, hey, Bruin, see you later. See ya. There was just a lot going on, a lot of trash talk, and I'm super excited we got the win without Cam Rising. There's still no word on when this guy's going to be back. We don't know if it's going to be back versus Oregon State or if it's going to be in Cal in a few weeks. But, man, sitting at 4-0 without Rising, I'm super stoked about that. So, well done, Utes. Awesome defense, awesome special teams. Now, the Cougs. This was going to be a tough game for the Cougs. Really, after that Arkansas victory, it was such an emotional victory and everything. Gave it all in the field, came back 14-0 and stuff, and then going and playing your first Big 12 game in Lawrence. That's a tough ask and stuff, especially with an experienced quarterback like Jaden Daniels. So really, I think the Cougs are going to rebound this week, but I just thought that was a little bit too much to go on the road back to back. So kudos to KU for getting that win in Lawrence, getting ranked too. I think they're sitting at 23 in the AP poll. And KU's got a huge game this week, guys, versus Texas. And that's really one of the big games of the week. And seriously, if they can steal that game in Austin, my goodness, look at the Jayhawks go. So I think the Cougars, though, they're going to rebound. They're going to play well versus Cincy this week and stuff. And I expect to win this week at home.
Very good. All right. Immaculate.
As far as Utah goes, man, you know me, I'm from Iowa, so I got to appreciate a good defensive show like that. I know most people don't like those games, but I think it's pretty exciting watching a defense get a hold. I mean, it's just like a slow build, and then you get that stop, and it's just like this rush. It's not for everyone, but I can appreciate that you had fun watching that. That's what I see from Utah. I see Utah, you're on backup quarterbacks and you're undefeated still in this year. Are you in the top 10 now?
Top 10.
God
with
bless.
Wins over
With
Florida,
backup
Baylor, and
quarterbacks.
UCLA. Come
Yes.
on, right?
With backup
Well, I
quarterbacks,
remember
that's crazy.
weren't we talking about this in July about how difficult this record and schedule was going to be? I mean, it's remarkable.
Unreal that the Utes are sitting at undefeated, like at 4-0. But go ahead. Yeah.
It may not be unprecedented, but it kind of feels like it is. And to have it this year, with what's going on with football, with realignment, consolidation, with, where you're going next year and just everything that's led up to it, to know that you guys, even if you don't have Cam Rising, even, whatever happens, you're still in a pretty good spot. So I thought that was very impressive on Utah's part to get that win. Not very many people thought you were going to get it.
Exactly. Moen. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
BYU, really quick, Immaculate. BYU,
even though they lost, still impressed, man. That's a tough team. And Kansas is a good team this year. I'd argue you'd say they're better than Arkansas.
Right.
And you might even see Kansas get an upset over Oklahoma or Texas this year. I'm not calling for it. I'm just saying it could happen. And the way they seem to hold in there and keep playing no matter what, like that's the thing about BYU is, it's a mature team. We'll call it that. I'm not going to be like they're old. They're mature. They've had experience. They've had life experience as part of it. And when they get into these situations, it doesn't seem to faze them. And they just keep going. So I think the future's pretty bright for BYU in the Big 12 from what I'm seeing so far.
I love it. Moen.
Well, one, there's nothing wrong with being old. That's just experience.
Tell me about it.
Also, I think BYU played a hell of a game, but Kansas turned out to be Kansas State this year.
Yeah, they're very
Kansas
good.
is the Kansas State of the Big 12 now.
Yeah.
And if Texas isn't careful, they might be in for some trouble going up against that Jayhawks offense, because that is a potent offense. As far as Utah goes, outside of that pick six, it was really a slow, plodding game. I mean, Dante Moore really kind of crapped the bed on me.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
But it was nice. It was one of those games I could flip around and keep coming back to it, and it was the same score.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's true.
I could keep checking on it. There were other games I was watching on my four-way with the YouTube TV, but I would come back to that one. I'd say, same score.
Right.
Same score. Same score. I guess I'll just lose this one. Then, of course, UCLA wouldn't go for 2 to let me cover at the end. But
So,
I was impressed with Utah's defense. Utah's absolutely
So
a top
good.
10 team when it comes to defense. It's just will Cam Rising make it back in time and be the Cam Rising he needs to beat teams like Oregon, Washington, USC?
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to see. Certainly everybody's waiting with bated breath, waiting to see it pop out. Before we move down the line, really quick, break down Ohio State, Notre Dame for us.
Well,
All right, I'm
Notre-
teasing. I'm teasing. We'll come back to that. I just wanted to get your salivating. I just wanted to get you started. Just hold on. I was teasing you. Just hold on. We'll get to it, I promise. Really quick, we got a super chat right out the gate. Cleveland Rocks, who's also happens to be one of our paying members. Appreciate that, Cleveland Rocks. He says, Immaculate, great seeing you on Locked On Big 12. Tip of the hat. That was a great show. And I hope you enjoyed your time there with Drake.
I did. It was a fun first experience to go through that type of format and to do that type of show and set up for it. So it was a great experience. Had a lot of fun. May be back on there again in the near future. We shall see. But I'm really glad that people were appreciating it and had a lot of fun watching it.
Why don't you post the link to his YouTube channel, put it in the comments so everybody can see that, Immaculate, and the link specifically to your show, and put that in the comments section, and let's blast that out there, because I think all three of us watched it, and we thought you did a great job. And Drake, of course, he's a great host. So
you repped well.
I put the first one out there. That seems to be the one that's getting the most attention. There are two more, connected 8-minute segments after that for folks that you might also enjoy those just as much or more if you're not as connected to the Washington State, Oregon State situation. But
I would just post the first one, and they'll run into each other.
Yeah.
There you go. That'll be fine.
Just to let people know that it does continue on after that, though.
There's 3 of them, so everybody knows. All right. Well, now that we got the opening out of our
wait, Bomber. No, not yet. What's your takes on this?
Dang it!
And this BYU
get past me.
game.
I was disappointed. BYU gave away some points. I do think it was a hello, welcome to the Big 12. There was some heavy hitting going on. I think Kansas was juiced up to lay a little wood, saying, "Hey, welcome to the Big 12 and P5." So I think there was something to that. A little bit extra. I'm not sure they come out this week and do the same thing to Texas. But I think the biggest consternation that BYU has isn't the defense. Nobody can say that. And it's not Keaton Slovis. It's the offensive line and the lack of a running game. It's historically bad, and nobody can put their hands around it. Nobody knows why. Everybody's pointing their fingers. So this year is honestly, really, as it was always intended to be, it is going to be a baptism of fire. So I will continue to say BYU is ready for prime time. I don't think there's any issues with them competing. And but the things that we identified at the beginning of the season are gonna hold through the whole year. Depth is going to be a problem. You're 2 and 3 and 4 deep. What you can do to make adjustments in the halftime so that you put yourself in a position to win, like you did at Arkansas, but you're going to need to do that even more in the Big 12. And then probably lastly is you need to just step up your game. Everybody needs to do better. Kalani needs to do better with time management and their timeouts. Keaton Slovis needs to do a better job of managing the game to meet his he's got some historical stats behind him. He needs to play like it. So I'm optimistic more than pessimistic, for sure. As far as my perception of Utah goes, again, they continue to impress. I have never once picked against Utah's ability. I've only picked against the point spreads. So, and I think this week, again, might be that challenge, because right now, I believe, Oregon State's 2.5 points?
2.5.
So basically the home advantage, right? Mm-hmm. So come Thursday, not Friday this week, I need to make that announcement. We're not doing a Friday meeting or Friday shows because both BYU and Utah play Friday night. So we're going to do a special Thursday night show before the Thursday night football, and we want to invite everybody to that. But anyway, just to wrap up, I think the sky's the limit for Utah now. They're getting ready to turn the corner. You guys, it's all laid out in front of you now. You just need to get some people healthy off of their injuries. And as far as BYU goes, it's going to be a dogfight the whole season. But 7-5, hell, 8-4 would be
Right.
amazing records.
That's
And I
totally in the
think-
cards for the Cougars.
Yeah.
And I think
So-
this Cincinnati game is a big one, right? Having
Right.
Cincinnati at home this week is the first time. Who's going to get that first Big 12 win? I just feel like it's just a big momentum setter for the rest of the year. You got to get it. I think the Cougars are going to get this one. What's the spread of the game? You know,
Right now it's 2.5 points. BYU.
2.5. Yep. It's going to be a close one. I see the Cougars getting that one done.
Yeah, I think they will too. Cleveland Rocks, again, also a paying member, but he's given us a $5 super chat. He says, how is K-State not ranked ahead of Fresno? It's a joke. Look at their schedule. Give me a break. What high school team do they play next? It's ridiculous. I can't disagree. I don't
K-State
know.
always gets discounted. I
They
swear,
do.
like all the time. K-State and Utah are like two peas in a pod, really, with just getting the disrespect. But the Cats especially, come on, give me a break. I mean, that was a good win versus UCF. I mean, the running game was going bonkers and stuff. Will Howard playing that game. Rank the Cats. I mean, the Cats are still going to be a Big 12 contender with KU. And
Absolutely.
there's two schools that won't be named here.
They still got plenty of time to get back up there, though.
They do.
Moen, do you want to say anything to that?
Thank you for the super chat.
Thank you for the super chats,
Well
and
done.
thank you for being on the spot for the clapping. Thank you very much, Moen. Keep me on task, okay? Keep doing that. Interrupt me if you have to, because we need to recognize those. Those both happen to come from Cleveland Rock, so I think you'll forgive the first one, but definitely we want to get clapping and more of those sound effects. I'm looking forward to them. All right, let's do our call outs before we move later into the show. First of all, if you want to become a member of the channel, please just do a simple subscription, free, right? But if you want to be a paying member, there are benefits to that. And later in the show, I'll show you how to sign up on the Big 12 Mafia Holy Rivals page on YouTube. Not going to do that right now. But being a paying member, and your comments will be read ahead of regular folks who we still value those comments. We have to defer to our paying members. And then lastly, as Cleveland Rocks has done, if you want to make sure your comment is read to the entire world, and we're averaging about 1,000 views every show, if you want people to see what you're thinking, make it a super chat, and I guarantee you we'll get those out. All right, let's say hello to a bunch of people. Mr. Monkey says, first in the house. Glenn
Mr.
Lumen,
Monkey.
who I talked to on the phone, is one of our paying members. Good to see you, Glenn. Glenn had a sort of a heart issue over the last week. And so, Glenn, I have prayers for you. And you need to let me know when that happens again, and we can start sending some love your way, prayers and whatnot. You and I both believe in that. Immaculate was third. That's not right. That's cheating. Joey Z.
I know I should be first. What happened?
No, somebody else got in ahead of you. Cougar Tracks is in here early. Good to see you, Cougar Tracks. And he says, may the force be with you. I love to see that. Let's see here. Jason Spangler. Jason, I want to hear your comments later in the show. Tell us how Kansas' perception of BYU was. I'd really like to do that. And you'd like to be on the show, I'll send you the link, and we'll do that. Let's see. Jason's down here, more and more down the road.
If you want Jason's views on BYU, just go down a little bit further. He gives it.
Yeah, no, we'll get him on the phone. I want to hear it from him.
Yeah.
Mr. Monkey says again. Let's see. Pac-12 program. Larry's in the house.
What's up,
Jared
Larry?
Jones, our Ohio State bud. Besides Moen, Craig Hirsch. Let's see. John Menser. Good to see you, John. John says BYU is probably the classiest fans. They were great in Lawrence. I appreciate that, John. Really, BYU fans like to hear that. Craig Hirsch. By the way, I'll say the same thing about Utah fans. They travel just as nice. Let's see. Alan Tran is here. Sergeant Pickles made it in. He's here early. That's good to see. He's one of our members. Good afternoon, ladies and jelly spoons. That's cute. Let's see. We'll get the rest of these. P.S. Doff is here. Another Kansas fan.
Man, we got to talk about this KU Texas game. Oh gosh.
Okay,
Sorry to
we'll talk
interrupt.
about
I'm
it.
so excited about this game. Like, I think this is a pivotal game for the new Big 12.
We'll talk about it, and when I send Spangler a thing. When he comes on, we'll talk about it. Alan Tran, Pac-12 Pilgrim, Mike Smith. And I think we'll cut it off there. Clint Moses will be the last, or go Beavs. Good to see you here, Clint.
Not this
Always
week,
nice to have you
Clint.
in the house.
Nuh-uh.
I'm cheering for you, Clint. That's me. I'm cheering for you. All right, let's jump to, and I queued up the wrong thing. Let me get up our list of, let's see, where's that? Here we go. All right, so let's go over and review our picks. So, Immaculate, you're the one keeping track. Kind of run through these for everybody.
Okay, so you want to go through your picks. All right. What do we got here? So we'll start with Bomber. He's listed there first as overall 14-10. Had a pretty good week, 5-3. You went with, obviously, BYU. Fortunately, that was a loss.
Yeah.
Utah, you went Penn State. We all went with Oregon State, so I'll just say that for you and for all of us, so we all got that wrong.
Okay.
You did go with Ole Miss. Missed that one. Florida State you got. Oregon you got. And Ohio State you got. So you ended up with 5-3 on the week. Pretty good showing.
Yay, I'm going to clap for myself because I'm
one.
not always great at that. All right, who's next? Then you're next.
All right. Oof. Yeah.
There we go.
I also missed on BYU. Hit on Utah. I missed on Iowa. That'll probably be the last time I'll miss on that one.
Sorry, I need to display this differently.
Missed on Oregon State. Missed on Ole Miss. Hit Florida State. Hit Oregon. And hit Ohio State. Landed 4-4. But still keeping my lead. So we'll let that be my bad week. How about
Very,
Okay.
very tight lead right there, Immaculate.
Yeah, you two guys came up on me. We'll go with Oot next. He had the winning week, as you can see, with 6-2. I don't know where
Did
this
he
guy.
cheat? That's
Man,
the first
you know,
thought. Did he
How
cheat?
would I
wondering.
cheat in this game?
He got
I
one of
don't
those
know. Somehow.
manuals from a time traveler came and told him.
I
what's
told
up
you
or
guys
something.
Utah was going to win, and these guys were squawking when Rising wasn't
we
going to
all
play
picked
on Saturday
Utah.
morning. I'm like,
that-
just stick with the pick.
That wasn't the one that did it. You nailed Kansas, got Penn State. I mean, you got Oregon State wrong with all of us, but you hit Alabama. You were quite literally the only one to do that. Florida State, your miss was with Colorado, and then you got Ohio State.
I should have
But,
counted for 10 losses.
You're right there now. You were going into this, you were 8-8, and now you're sitting there at 14-10, one game behind the lead.
I think that's crazy, by the way. That's really a 6-2 is amazing.
He jumped.
Absolutely.
And then, Moen, do you want me to go through this? Well done. Well done, sir.
Let me just say, Clemson's kicker screwed me.
Yeah, that's one of them.
I could have made that field goal, and I've had 4 back surgeries.
Voting for
I could've made
Clemson
that
is a
field.
Loss. Anybody who votes for Clemson, it should be an auto loss.
I mean,
They
you
should
did get
won.
Ohio State right.
I got that one right.
Yeah.
You did get
And
Oregon right.
I will point out, everybody thought I was crazy when I said Oregon State, Washington State would be a good old-fashioned Pac-12 shootout.
That was a
What
good
did
game.
it turn
It was
out
a
to
good
be?
game. It was a very good
a
game.
Pac-12 shootout.
Right.
Yeah, and okay, what else did you get right? Oh, and you did get Kansas right.
I took Kansas,
Yeah.
and I took Oregon. And that
You
Oregon.
took Oregon, Kansas, and Ohio State. You got right. The rest.
Can I push just one more button, Nate,
Please.
for that Oregon game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Take
I'm
them
all right
to
with
the
that.
woodshed.
I'm never
Tell
picking
us how you
Colorado
felt.
ever again.
Yeah,
By the
I
way.
told you guys they were going to get curb stomped. Boat raced, however you guys want to put it.
What about all this Colorado momentum, though? Everyone's like, "Oh, Colorado's the best."
You
You
know,
know, that Nebraska
didn't
win, the
play
TCU
anybody.
win.
When
No,
you lose your
TCU is
number one
overrated.
receiver, what happens is their defensive backfield gets to shift. Their number one defensive back is now covering your number 2. Their number 2 is covering your number 3. That's a bad loss. And when that person also happens to be your number 1 cornerback, then you have the same problem on the other end where your number 2 is covering their number 1, and it just goes down the line. When I saw that he was out, and I'm saying the same thing for USC this week, I'll just say it right now, it's not going to be pretty. It's not. And we saw that even Travis Hunter tried calling Dion and saying that he had to be, in the next game, and that's not going to happen.
Did he really say that?
Yeah, there's a video out there.
Oh my gosh.
Dion is showing the text to his team and trying to be, this is a dog. Anyways, just saying he's not going to be in the game, and it's going to be a big deal. And when losing your number one receiver is a big deal, losing your number one quarterback is a big deal. But losing both of those, in my opinion, he's more important than Shedeur.
What do you guys think about Colorado? Are they built just on clicks?
Right.
They really are they
Right
focused
now
on winning here?
That's all just coach
Lanning
talk.
said.
That's just coach talk. That's how you get a team route. I mean, people are looking into that way too much. Anyone who's been in the locker room, that's just getting a team fired up.
But even with like this Hunter news and stuff, like everything is public. Everything with Colorado's public. Is that just based on the clicks, or like what is that just for recruiting, or what's the point?
All of it. I mean, that's kind of the young kids these days, man. That's how they want to show off. Now with NIL, they want to be seen. They want to get those NIL deals. It's a big part of it. That's why they got their name with their Twitter link or whatever it is, the Adam on the back of their practice jerseys when the guys are going around and showing off. It's people are taking it to be, this shallow side of things, but it's not. It's the business side of college football now.
Sounds like the XFL to me.
I mean,
well, let's keep this in mind too. Those cameras were in the locker room to see that Dan Lanning speech.
Right,
Dan
that's
Lanning
true.
let them in that locker
Yep.
room.
Yes.
He was putting his message out there to the recruits as well.
Mm-hmm.
But
talk shit, get hit.
And that's what Dion is
happened. He got
changing.
hit.
We even saw that at Georgia. I mean, Georgia had cameras in their locker room for his talk. It's changing, and some people aren't comfortable with that, and I get it, but it is part of the game now going forward.
Really quick, Jason Spangler, I know you follow me on Twitter, or maybe you just sent this to me. Did you send it to me? You need to send me a DM. I can't find a DM that I've gotten from you before, so I can send you the link to join the show. I'd like to get that to you sooner than later. So if you're still watching, and I think you probably are, send me a DM on Twitter, and I will. I'll send you the invite.
Bomber, we need to get Moan's thoughts on this Ohio State win.
Yeah, I wasn't. Go ahead. Yeah.
We got. I want to hear all about it. I mean, I watched the
go ahead.
game. I've got some thoughts too, but I want to hear your thoughts, Moan. Every thought.
Okay, I will say this. I thought Notre Dame played exceptionally well, but they played not to lose the game, and they lost the game. And Ryan Day, I know a lot of people thought that was a classist shot at suffering succotash Lou Holtz, but, Lou Holtz just happened to be the last guy to tell Ohio State that they were soft. That's been a narrative for the last 2 years, and Ryan Day clearly just had enough of it. And I think the fact that they drove down there with 1:26 left and scored on a rushing play tells you all you need to know about whether or not they're soft or not. They dominated through that drive. I mean, honestly, Ohio State should have been ahead by more. An offensive lineman made a stupid penalty. If Woody Hayes was the coach, that kid would have got paintbrushed as soon as he got off the field for doing a stupid penalty like that. But I was happy. Again, I was drinking throughout. Ohio State can never let me just have an easy one. They want to put the old ticker up there, so I had to have a couple drinks to just, steady the nerves. But hell of a game. It was an instant classic. You want to talk about Big Ten football? That was Big Ten football. Fantastic game. Hey, guess what happens when you double Marvin Harrison Jr.? Emeka Egbuka. That's what happens. Mm-hmm. And if you double team him, there's 4 more guys waiting just like him that Brian Hartline has sitting on the bench that'll probably transfer and win a Heisman Trophy. That's how good the receiver core is at Ohio State. It is NFL level receivers, one after the other.
Hasn't it been that way for a while?
It's been that way. It is wide receiver U. I said on my show that Washington has tried to put this out there that they have the best receiver core.
Right.
And they do have some really good receivers, but to me they'd be 1A and 1B. I think Ohio State, just by default of having Marvin Harrison Jr. I know at C.J. Stroud's Pro Day last year, people were salivating over getting Marvin Harrison Jr. They literally compared him to Calvin Johnson. Said he was the best wide receiver prospect since Calvin Johnson. So, And I know he tweaked his ankle a little bit on Saturday, but apparently it wasn't that bad of an injury. So I think they'll probably rest him in the bye week, and then we'll come out of the bye week a little stronger. Kyle McCord is definitely our starter, though. And
Yep.
Irish, we probably won't play you again for, a few more years, but there's one stat I need to bring up, 1936. That's the last time you guys beat Ohio State, and that'll be the last time you beat Ohio State.
Wow. Okay. Really quick before I know you had a comment next. Jason Spinkler, just put in, oh, there it is. I see it now. All right, go ahead. You wanted to follow up.
Yeah, I'll say this about the game. Watching the game, it felt like an NFL game. Just the everything about it, like it just, you felt the energy going on there and the magnitude of the game. Just like, it's an outside observer, not a Notre Dame fan, not an Ohio State fan, but just watching, it's like, this is elite college football. I can't remember a game over the last few years where I had that kind of feeling, just watching that, just enjoying that experience and everything. It's huge, big time gladiator level football that I actually only kind of remember watching some pro games in person and everything. So kudos to Ohio State and Notre Dame for delivering a performance like that. It was awesome to watch, and it was just an experience, to tell you the truth. So big thumbs up.
So before we move on and start talking about some different topics, is there anything else that you guys want to talk about as it relates? We can do a quick sum up of the records as Immaculate has in there in front of us. I don't think that there's no hiding in our schedules. These schedules are going to get more and more difficult.
We can hide that graphic, though.
We can. I'm happy to do that.
I think I'm not gonna lose any more games all year because I do not want to see double digits in that second line. No double digits.
I wish you luck, my friend.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna need a lot of it.
I sent Jason. I just sent you a DM. So once you get that, click on it, go through just follow it, and I'll bring you in, and we can talk Kansas, Texas, and Kansas BYU. Okay, so yeah, that was a great sum up, and I appreciate you, Moen, for putting that together. That's really cool. While we're waiting for Jason to join us, I wanted to share one other thing with everybody. I'm starting to keep track of record, or contact information and other stuff like that, because I'm hearing a lot of people that want to follow us, and they think I talk too fast. So going off of the notes, I'm copying and putting it in here. So these are the contacts that I want you guys to use to reach us. You can reach us on Twitter. You can reach us on email. Either one will work for me. I prefer Twitter, but if you're going to send me an email, maybe let me know on Twitter, or I'll continue to check, but I'm really bad about checking Twitter stuff. So here's the information. It's Big 12 Mafia at gmail.com. Then you got the Big 12 Mafia and Holy Rivals contact. You have the Wild Ute on there. And then as far as teammates and key contributors, Immaculate and Moen are by far our biggest key contributors. And then we have a part-timer that's going to start coming in, and that's Captain Butter. And he's the one that does those flights, BYU flights, currently over the Puget Sound. But we're talking about turning that into a charity of some sort, and turning his time into donations so people can donate to the charity depending on how much he flies. Anyway, big ideas, but there you go. So now you can go back, watch this video, pause it right here, and if you need to reach us, we're glad to have you. Okay, now let's move back here, and I'm going to bring in one of our Kansas followers.
Ooh.
And somebody who doesn't want to share his face with us. I guess that's okay.
That's okay. He'll get there someday.
Yeah.
Jason.
I'm cooking dinner right now, but thank you.
That's fine, Jason. Okay, first let's talk about the BYU Kansas game.
Listen, the idea that BYU was just going to walk into the Big 12, and it's not going to get any easier from here. You know, like I was saying earlier in the chat, we got Fry coming in, we got Utah, we got Arizona schools. That first hit that was leveled on your running back by Mr. Kobe Bryant there set the tone for what Kansas football is trying to become. We are not a football school. We know this, and we've been working many, many years to rectify the situation, because we know going into all this realignment, that we need to be as strong as we can on the gridiron. And I think we finally have the coach in place. You guys have no idea. BYU fan, Iowa fan, Utah fan, no idea the pain that was suffered under Turner Gill, Charlie Weiss, the other guy. Like, it was
Les
just
Miles.
Oh God, I forgot about Les Miles. And, they're like this, and this is what I thought Dion was going to experience. I will eat crow. Dion has proven. Now I know they're talking about they have all these 5-star recruits coming in, and a lot more than last 5 years that Colorado's had combined. It's not more. It's not that difficult to have more than one. Let's be honest. It's Colorado football. It's not like things are changing that dramatically. But what has happened at KU, and BYU. I just have one question about the whole mission thing. I'm not trying to bring it up like some sour, kind of situation, but that guy Isaac Rex, he's a full-grown man that committed in 2016. He's got at least 30 pounds of growth on everyone. Here's my question: do they go on the mission right away at 18, or do they play for 2 years, then depart the team and go on the mission and then come back? Honest question. I'm not trying.
Every student does it differently. There's no prescribed schedule for anyone. You can't go before you're 18, so that is a limitation. But after that, you can go whenever you want. There isn't a prescription for the amount of the when. As far as the how and what the mission actually looks like, and this is what's always looked over because it doesn't feed certain people's stereotypes. When these kids go on their missions, they're not working out. They don't do any exercise. The only thing that you could count that they're even doing that's exercise-esque is they walk and ride bicycles, but not at any pace. They do it, go 20 feet, get off their bike, go knock on a door. So that's not really any measurable exercise. And two, they're not lifting weights. There is no calisthenics program. The shape that they're in when they come home, generally they're way overweight, and you can back me up on this because Utah has the exact same type of players. They have RMs too. They come back, they're out of shape, and typically it takes an entire year for them to get their air and their wind back, for them to be in shape to go out and even attempt to play a down of organized football. So I don't know what you've heard in overtime. I hope some of these negative stereotypes will disappear. But while Isaac Rex might be big, I think you have to remember that he went at 2016, but then everybody got interrupted for 2 years for COVID. So it's not just missions. It's
you're
just
right.
as well we're seven-year seniors that were held back and are big because of COVID.
Yeah, well said, Bomber. I'm just going to throw something in too. Really, these guys, oftentimes, these are return missionaries. When they're on the mission, like Bomber's saying, they can't work out, they can't exercise, they're not in elite athletic training, right? So when they come back, a lot of times they're not the players they used to be, guys.
Yeah.
Like a lot of times they lose some of that skill that's 2 years away and everything. It takes a long time to get back to where they were even at, and a lot of times, again, they're just not the same. And so really, I don't know if it's an advantage or not. Really, you could see it both ways. Maybe for Rex and stuff, probably took him a year to get going again, but he's bigger and everything. So you can look at that on the surface. It looks like an advantage. But what kind of player would he be if he never went on a mission, right? Like he just developed his skills all along.
Great
like, you
player.
just never know.
I mean, let's be honest. And watching that game, he was the one. I was scared every time the ball went to him. He caught it, and had Slovis not thrown and I think he's getting a little pass here. To be honest, I think that's the one that was tipped around, the interception that was tipped and got ran back. That's one thing, but that first one he threw was right out of the second half started. You just can't do that, and I just felt like the team kind of just was like, I almost saw him halfway smile over there at the sideline. I don't know. That was just my feeling about it. But I think BYU is going to be fine, but I don't think it's going to be any easier. That was my thoughts on the game. As far as the Texas game goes, we won there before, 2 years ago, and we were 30-point underdogs, 30.5 to be precise, 30.5 2 years ago. We're 17.5, has moved to 16.5 in a day and a half. So, listen, they are they're fine. They're a fine football team, but all this hype going around about Texas being the #1 team in the country, and I'm sorry, I don't think Alabama is nearly as good. It's not a vintage Alabama team. I think we got a shot down there, and you're right. To what I was saying earlier about this being a defining moment of the new Big 12, we cannot let these MFers leave with our trophy. We just cannot do it. I don't care who it is. I don't care if it's K. I will root for K-State, and I hate K-State more than anything except Missouri. But I hate K-State more than anything, and I will root for them. Like, we need to beat Texas. We cannot let them leave the title. If we can do it Saturday, believe in JD6. He's under the radar. He can do it. And our wide receivers are and our linemen. I don't know where they came from, but let's do it. Great show, guys.
Hey, Spangler, one last question. Okay, what's the key to victory? I want to see this so bad, like incoming to the Big 12. Like I said earlier, this is a huge pivotal game for respect for the new Big 12. To send these guys out. Don't let Texas win the conference. KU has a chance to win this conference. Get this done, play physical. But I want to hear what your keys to the victory are in Austin.
So there's two games that stand out. The 2 years ago when we won in, I think it was double overtime, with Jared Casey catching that ridiculous 2-point conversion. I think the final score was like 53-52. Crazy back and forth high scoring game. The other game to look to is Puka Williams, I think it was 4 years ago or 3 years ago, down in Norman against Oklahoma, where we had no business. We lost the game, but there was these shootout style of football. I think we go the opposite. I think you do exactly how you did Saturday against BYU, because we have a defense. It's kind of similar. It's a weird parallel with the Chiefs, right? Everybody's talking about Mahomes and all his weapons, and really it's the Chiefs, the defense, that's carrying us this year. So KU's kind of looking the same way. Our secondary are a bunch of men. Kenny Logan, you saw the stat out there. He's like number 3 in tackles and FBS. He's like that every year. Again, he's another like a lot of these guys are. They're benefiting COVID. Kenny Logan's been there like 6 years now, it feels like.
Right.
So I think that whole secondary and, are weak. But you know what? If I was on defense and if I was a defensive coordinator, that's probably the one place I'd rather be the weakest. I want to be strong in the secondary. I want to be strong on the line. Do we have the depth? I don't know if Texas has the depth. I'm sorry, but everybody keeps talking. Where did all these guys come from magically? They beat Alabama. I get it, but they threw some big plays. But I think we got a better secondary, and we got a better quarterback than Alabama has. Now, we're in Austin. Would I rather be in Lawrence? Yeah. But you know what? Take that. The line's already moving, all right? Smart money's going on KU. And, man, if we win, I might jump off the window. I mean, I swear. It's going to be – I cannot – I'm telling you, I will come to Lawrence, and I will streak down the hill – and we will, we'll do it.
Spangler.
I'm 44 years old, right? And I love KU football more than anything. Everybody else loves basketball. I'm like, F that, man. Basketball's fun and all, but no, man. KU, like that Orange Bowl year that we went, when you guys remember we beat Virginia Tech and Akeem Talib running back those like touchdowns, like that was my jam. And I cannot wait for us to be back there. And we get over this hump. I just want to send those losers out. Horns down. Let's go.
Hey, so before you go, a couple comments here. Mr. Monkey says KU has yet to play 4 full quarters in a row in a single game. Do you agree with that? Did we lose him? Are you still there?
I mean,
oh, sorry, you're cracking up.
My stupid headphones.
That's okay.
I think the game against Illinois is a very underrated performance, right? We had, I think it was like 6 sacks in that game, right? The Nevada game was, nobody watched it because it was boring. And I do think, and everybody's laughing about KU, like, oh, they can't play no vanilla kind of offense because they're not good enough. But I really do think they did, because we have this wacky offensive coordinator who throws all these stupid plays out. Half the plays they ran last week against BYU, I was like, what are you doing? Just
I thought there was. Yeah, there was some questionable play calls. I agree with you. Yeah.
Because BYU is not a team you mess around with. And you're right. Like, I've been hearing this a couple times. 3 or 4 plays and KU loses. And that would have been disastrous. Like, as much as BYU wanted to win Saturday, it would have been 10 times worse for us to lose. Because we're building up all this stuff. We're trying to get this, stadium renovations all going. But yeah, like – the whole, I don't know if we're like a 4-quarter kind of team if if that makes sense. I think this team is different from the previous like KU teams that have been successful. Like we teams down into the mud with us. We have to make Texas, and that's how we beat Texas. We beat Texas twice in the last 5 years. I think my math's correct. I think we took off. They didn't show up the COVID year, by the way. That was them who canceled the game. We were there ready to play. They canceled the game. So we beat them 2 out of the last 5 years. And the reason that we beat them is because we make them like sloppy. And because Texas can be sloppy. They're not. I'm sorry.
Right.
I'm not feeding into it. I don't think Quinn is like the new Colt McCoy and all this talk that we keep hearing. Like, no, he's just a regular guy, and they beat an overrated Alabama team. So, have we played 4 quarters? I think we have. I know that sounds weird because I just don't think our 4 quarters are that good, but I think that's okay. If that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and do you agree with Mr. Monkey saying BYU is the friendliest fan base on earth? Do you agree with that?
My cousins were at the game. I heard no problems with any BYU fans. I saw everybody sitting there on the sideline. You know, I don't think so. I don't think we're in a era of like combativeness in the conference. It's weird. Like, to be honest, any of you guys ever felt like this? Like when I'm sitting there watching Texas. I mean, we got a lot of bad football teams going on too. Like Oklahoma State, they need we're looking bad. KU cannot be the second best team in the conference. Like it just cannot happen. So we'll see. And I hope that Colorado. I mean, I'm worried. I'm worried as soon as Shador leaves, Deion's just gonna like check out, and it's gonna be something else, and we're gonna get the old Colorado. We're not. I mean, I'm honestly worried about that. But I think Utah's gonna be good. Yeah, Utah's gonna be good. Whatever they want to be. So I think it's going forward. I think it's going to be Kansas State. I think it's going to be Oklahoma State. I think it's going to be Utah, and it's going to be a free for all for whoever else wants to be there. Because I don't think that I may get shit for this, but I think KU still. The reason you don't hear a lot from KU, I think this KU still got their eye open. They're that kind of like place, and if the Big Ten or the SEC or any of these places keep make a little flag for them. Time because I think that KU could be a little more involved in what's going on in the conference than they have been. I think the fans have, but where's the administration? Because if this is true about this whole, I don't know if you guys saw this thing about the other day about if Cal and Stanford were actually like a couple of the schools, and like then you're kind of like
you're cutting out there.
Anyway. I'm just talking about future. Like,
okay,
good spot, but Rock Chalk. Let's go Saturday.
Okay.
Cool. Thanks, Spangler.
All right, very good. Go ahead, Moen.
Sound effects. Yeah, I love the sound effects.
Is that the Rock Chalk right
Jason.
there? Take care.
Good to see you.
Thanks, brothers.
Love it. We'll see you later.
Night,
Play that again, Moan.
I love it.
That's the Rock Chalk right there on the show.
That's the ending of the Ferentz clan. That's what that is.
I love it.
Ooh, we could talk a little bit about that. Let's go through.
You don't want to get me going.
Let's talk through a few of these comments that we got that have come up that I've flagged. Ryan Kibbe says USC was close against ASU. That should be all the sign you need that USC is going to be rough.
That's right. Ryan Kibbe's an ASU fan too, representing the Sun Devils in the house. So
but we just agree.
That ASU team is different than what we had seen previously. Previously, we had the rookie quarterback. This time, we had the veteran. Previously, we had this other offensive coordinator there doing play calls, and now Dillingham has taken over. I think you saw 2 different teams, and I think that their defense responded to their offense actually playing. So, I think this is actually closer to the ASU that we thought was going to be there. Now, are they going to run all over the place and win? No, but they are going to be competitive.
What do you think, Moan?
I don't know about ASU yet. I've had so many start and stops with that teams over the years that we've heard. I want to see more.
It's been a mess.
More. USC, I will still say this. Alex Grinch is a terrible defensive coordinator. Yeah. He's been a terrible defensive coordinator everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
I don't know who he has naked pictures of. But somebody needs to break in his house and burn him because that man cannot coach a defense. You've had a year and you've still got a defense that looks like tissue paper.
I'll say, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, he used to be a good coordinator back in the Wazoo days, but yeah, for many years it's been rough.
He was terrible at Ohio State. He was terrible at Oklahoma. He was terrible. He is terrible at USC.
Yeah. One last thought too, before we leave. So USC versus ASU. ASU has played USC for how many years in the Pac-10 era, right? Like, I mean, 30, 40, 50 years, whatever.
Since 78.
Yeah, since 78, right? So like this is the last time they're playing USC, right? So like I think that ASU really gave everything they had to win that game. I think that USC was kind of sleepwalking from what I watched and stuff. I don't think it's really any bearing on either program. I think ASU is going to be rough this year. They're going to be better when Rashada matures. But I think that USC is going to turn it on when they need to versus the best teams in the pack. They will be there in the pack. Yeah, their defense may be a little leaky, but they're going to score with the best of them. So they're going to be one of the top 2 or 3 teams, and they're going to have a chance to make a playoff run despite that defense. That's how I see it. I think it's just a really good effort by ASU in that game, based on the history there and stuff and the last shot at them.
Well, I have to see. All right, we've got 2 more topics I want to get to, so let's move right along. Next one I want to do is let's talk about this playoff expansion, the new negotiations. Everybody knows what's going on. Basically, for 2024, there still possibly could be changes if they could get unanimity for all the voting parties. So that would be 10 conferences and Notre Dame to make changes. Nobody's proposing that those changes will happen, but the conversation right now is revolving around 2 things. The Pac-2, Oregon State, Washington State. I'm going to put that down as one issue. The other one is this playoff format, 6 + 6 and 5 and 7. So in 2 minutes, Immaculate, can you summarize this so we can get caught up and have a conversation about what this means?
Yeah. Well, if people don't realize what is happening right now, the conference or the college football playoff meetings are happening in the Big Ten headquarters in Chicago as we speak. And why this is such a big deal is everyone in the entire FBS is there. And that means this is a place where all of these folks can have conversations about anything and everything while saying they're just there to handle this business. So going into this, they were putting out the word that everything was looking like 6 and 6 was going to stay. And I had my questions about it because whenever they put out a talking point before anything's happened, you kind of have to wonder about it. And so now that the first day has happened, which more is to happen tomorrow, now we're getting the talking point that maybe the G5s are open to 5 and 7. And there's been 2 talking points that have gone out that, they're open to 5 and 7. And then the other talking point is it's kind of based upon whether the Pac conference is there. So it gets very interesting when you have all these different events and talking points all starting to coincide around the same thing. And that's the Pac-2. They did nothing in Dallas. It was just a month or 2 ago when they had the CFP meetings in Dallas, and none of this happened. So now they're in Chicago trying to do the same thing. And it looks like they need to push this forward because this is for 2024. So that's what's happening. That's what you're seeing here. It's all the political movements within this to 5 and 7 means 5 conference champions with assured spots. And then the 7 would be at large. The 6 + 6 is 6 conference champions plus 6 at large. So, if the Pac disappears and they stay with 6 and 6, now you're looking at 2 G5 champions getting in. And that's, I'm going to admit, you're probably not going to have 2 G5 champions that are even rated. But if the Pac disappears and we go to 5 and 7, that is no different to the G5 than 6 and 6 right now with the Pac. So when you see the G5 saying we'd be okay with 5 and 7 if the Pac disappears, it's because it's, same old, 1 G5 will get in as a champion. So that they're basically signaling that situation right now.
Immaculate, is there any opportunity for a 4 and 8 possibly to develop here too?
Oh, you mean
four
four?
lock
Or
spots for
power
the
conference.
power?
Man, you'd have
Yeah.
and
the
then 8 at
G5s
larges.
all have equal votes in this. So in order to completely cut them out, which that would be doing, I mean, let's be real, like the chances of a G5 getting one of the top 4 conference champion positions, it's not very good.
Right.
So they would be cutting themselves out on purpose. The amount of money that they would have to get, or future promises in 2026, or, you know, maybe the pushing to get the ability to have conference playoffs that they could then sell to the networks. I don't know. Something. They would have to get something big for that. And I think that that's a pretty small chance, but I wouldn't say it's completely out of the question.
Speak to why the G5s even really have a say in this model at all, in these conferences and everything, because I think it surprises a lot of folks that they even have a seat at the table to really determine these things. Why is that so? And is that going to change, you think?
I mean, I really couldn't speak to the decision making of why they decided to do it in the first place. I think it's just to have the entire FBS on the same page. Because that's what it is. It's the football bowl subdivision that's all part of this, with all the agreements with the bowls that came in, just maybe for complications or whatever. But they all have a seat at the table. They all have a vote. And at least for now, at least through 2025, I think. I'm not sure how it changes in 2026, but there's talk it'll change. But it requires a unanimous vote to change anything. And so that means any one G5, it's not the commissioners, it's presidents that sit on the executive management table. They can stop any movement from happening. So it kind of looks like Oresco is kind of speaking for the G5s right now, and I'm sure they all have the same opinion on this. And so if they didn't, you'd see someone else speaking up. So this kind of seems to be the collective G5 opinion on this, and that means their vote is consolidated. So, which doesn't matter. All you really need is one to not approve. But yeah,
Moen?
they're a part of it.
Sorry.
Right.
Moen,
couldn't this
before you,
ama- Yeah.
Moen, 1 second before you give your opinion, because you're next. I just wanted to, we're at an hour. I want to have everybody, thank you for being here. We're at 56. We were just at 60 people concurrent live. Thank you so much for being here. Please follow all of these guys on Twitter. Please subscribe to our channels on YouTube, and be a part of our growing family. We've got really good and respected people that contribute to this show, lots of respected guests, and we want you to be a part of that. So please subscribe and turn on your notifications both on Twitter and on YouTube. A bump for tomorrow night. We have Bob Thompson, the one, the only godfather of realignment and media. That's Bob Thompson will be here tomorrow night at 8:30 Eastern. And be here or be square. We're going to be asking questions, and we're going to be talking some really highbrow questions that we want to get out of Bob. And we really specifically, I'm speaking to my Washington State and Oregon State fans. In the next 24 hours, you guys, Connor and OS Beaver and anybody else, if you have questions you want me to ask Bob Thompson related to Washington State, Oregon State, or the Pac-2 realignment even, send them to me, DM them to me on Twitter, because I will be combing through those, and who knows, yours might be brought up. Last thing is we got a half hour here to go on our show. Please, if you want to get your comment read guaranteed, it'll have to be a super chat. We have way too many regular comments to go over. Or you could become a new member of the channel and become a paid member. And I defer to those comments if no others have popped off. Okay, now on to you, Moen.
Yeah, Immaculate. I wanted to ask you, don't you think that there's a possibility that they believe that the 2 remaining schools in the Pac-12 will not win their lawsuit, and that the Pac-12 might simply dissolve with the 10 leaving members?
I think that there's a possibility for that, but I think, as you probably well know, with legal proceedings, it's time. It's consuming. You're waiting. Like they haven't even got the next injunction hearing scheduled, and that's done by the court. That's not done by anyone else. It just takes time in between all the steps. So by the time they finally get to that point, I mean, who knows where we're at on this? Could they lose? Yeah, that's what happens when you go to court. if everyone knew exactly how a court proceeding was going to end, nothing would ever go to court. You would just have a settlement beforehand. So is there a chance? Sure. But the problem is how long it would take to get there.
Right. And the other thing I would bring up is we're still not done with consolidation within the G5 yet either.
Yeah, there's not as much money pushing that because they don't have the big regular season deals. I don't think we see a whole lot of that until we get the new rules for a postseason, like conference playoffs and whatnot. But it's coming. Sorry, go ahead.
Connor has a statement here, and then we're going to fix this, so I want to make sure everybody's clear about it. If you're on Holy Rivals right now, the page, it's just basically taking a feed of our Big 12 Mafia main page. Starting Saturday, the Holy Rivals is going to be completely unique. So, Connor, going into next week, that won't happen again. If we're doing a Holy Rivals show, it's going to be branded as Holy Rivals single, and the chats are going to be from there. So
it's only on that platform. Yeah,
it's
it's
only
not going to be on
platform.
both Big 12 Mafia and the Holy Rivals. Going forward, it's just going to be the Holy Rivals. So you don't run into that issue anymore, Connor. So thanks
just
for
wanted
bringing
to clean
that
up so that there wasn't any question about it. We care very much about you guys' opinions. That's one of the reasons why we want to move everything to its own channel so that we weren't losing those comments.
I'd like to say that Immaculate really is the best in show, really, like when it comes to his thinking on playoff access. I want to give you kudos, Immaculate, because really your perspectives are pretty cutting edge and everything, and I think everybody realizes that. But every time that you talk about this, getting your thoughts, really, I'm learning something new. So kudos to you and stuff. And if I'm a G5 program conference, then I'm really fighting, for a 6.6 or 5.7 model. Really fighting. That's the big takeaway and everything. But it was a good summation by you. So, well done.
Yep, appreciate it, man. Yeah, just we try to keep an eye on things to give people an actual picture of what's going on because we get lots of good little tidbits from the media. People got to understand the media is just telling you what they're kind of being paid to tell you. That's just how their business model works these days. So you got to do a little digging for yourself. And that's what we try to do for people.
Let's get to a couple comments, and then we're going to jump right into the next and probably what will be the last topic, and that's the Washington State, Oregon State, Pac-12, Pac-2 situation and where we're at after another week. A couple comments here. Cleveland Rocks, again, one of our paying members. Thank you, Cleveland. Appreciate it. He says Missouri is undefeated. Is that true? I don't know if that's the case. Is Missouri undefeated?
I think it is. Yeah.
Missouri is undefeated. That is something to behold.
I think
that is crazy.
They snuck one out on Memphis here last week.
Missouri needs to move from the SEC back to the Big 12. Let's get honest about that, really. Things be right.
And then one more from Connor. He says, Immaculate put your leverage so much more succinctly than I ever could have on LOB 12, which is Locked On Big 12. We're coming home, BBs. That's what Connor says. So hopefully they're coming to the Big 12.
And you guys remember
talking about it for months.
How long was I saying that Oregon State and Washington State were probably going to have to go to the Mountain West? I was not a believer, but
I was.
You were. That's why I'm saying this, because you were.
Yeah.
But the temporary restraining order,
right?
It turned me. I was just
really
and I had to go and look at more information. When I started seeing these numbers, it was just like, holy, S-bomb.
Absolutely. All right. I'm going to bring up this comment, and then I want you guys to talk about Oregon State, Washington State, while I get the graphic that we can see what shows were watched this last weekend. So this comment from Sergeant Pickles, who's one of our paying members, he says, Washington State, Oregon State pulled better TV numbers than any future Big 12 team matchup. I think Coach Dickert said that as much right after the game. Let's go around and go in reverse order. Moen, what did you think about Oregon State, Washington State, the game? And are you impressed with these viewership numbers?
Hashtag Moen was right. I called it as a shootout. That's what I thought of the game. As I was losing my shirt on the picks. As far as the TV numbers, that's accurate, but let's also keep in mind that it had very large coverage. That was on Fox, and I believe it was basically the only thing playing against it was Ohio State, Notre Dame. So there were a lot of people flipping back and forth. But yeah, being on Fox by yourself on primetime, you should have better TV numbers than any of these Big 12 matchups that might have been played against competition on ESPN, on Fox Sports 1. So, I mean, you got to take it with a grain of salt. But it was a fantastic game. It was a competitive game, and competitive games will do that for you.
Immaculate?
Well, we're looking at those numbers right now, and some people might go, oh, wow, look how far down that is. Well, let's keep in mind, that's Oregon State and Washington State. That's high. And I think most people weren't even ever paying attention to these schools before, but now they're a storyline. And that was a great game. And what games do you see the two teams having a joint press conference beforehand to talk about their conference business? I mean, this was a show from the get-go, and I had no idea that Washington State had that powerful of an offense. I mean, we knew it was a good offense, and that was their strength, and Oregon State's strength was in their defense. But Washington State made it look like Oregon State's strength wasn't their defense. It was pretty impressive. I'm very curious to see where they go the rest of the year.
Yeah, you know what? Shout out to the Holy Rivals community. We got over 200 chat comments. It's hopping right now. So kudos to all you listening, you holy homies. So thank you very much here. So looking at this, this is a surprising dynamic, but Washington State always pulls good TV numbers. Doesn't make much sense because Washington State's out in Pullman, but all Wazoo fans watch Wazoo. It's crazy. Like they are psycho about Wazoo. It's awesome.
Well, if you've been to the Palouse, you know there's nothing else to do there. So they better get people watching them.
And like anyone that's an alumni or a fan, they watch every game. They are so diehard Washington. You know that, Bomber.
I do. Yeah, I grew up there.
And so I'm not surprised with the TV numbers. 1.5 million is a good number, and it outdrew Utah UCLA. On Fox the earlier game, which is a bit disappointing, the Utah UCLA game for me to see. But I think that Oregon State and Wazoo, it's clear that they need to be in an A4 conference. There's no reason to not have these schools in. And that's really where we're going with this, right? I mean, they do draw when they're playing each other. There's no reason to leave them out. They bring a lot to the table, and so yeah, let's bring them on.
I want to echo everything that the panel has said. I really respect all you guys' opinions. I actually find myself, as I'm watching these games on the weekends, and the weekends realizing they're Thursday, Friday, and Saturdays, really hearing your voices in my head, not in a stalkerish way, but I'm really being considered when I'm thinking about really depth analysis related to how these programs are doing. And the media eyeballs is what drives all that demand. And it's remarkable to me that no matter what anybody else does, the fact that Colorado, Oregon is still over Ohio State, Notre Dame, arguably top 5 of all rivalries in the country when they play, and Colorado, Oregon beats them. Just what are we really dealing with here? And I think it makes me think, do I have to change what my paradigm is looking forwards down the road to be, is Dion breaking the system? Is this a situation where he's taking a 50 or a 10-pound sledge to all of college football, and it's going to be reformed in a different way?
Put this in perspective. That's at 3:30. You go down, what's the next game you see at 3:30?
BYU played at the same time.
No, I know, but if you go down the list from Colorado, Oregon, what's the next?
Utah played at
Mississippi at Alabama. Look at the ratings.
Yeah.
It's double.
Yep.
Double the ratings of Mississippi at Alabama.
Yeah.
That tells me everything. I mean,
it outdrew Ohio State, Notre Dame, guys. That's unreal. And the question I'm asking myself, is this the Taylor Swift effect? I mean, did you
Right.
guys see all that coverage like the Chiefs got? You know, when Taylor
Yes.
Swift was at the game
No.
watching Kelsey. I mean,
No.
like that's all the talk
No.
of the town. Is
No.
this just the same? All right, right.
Well, he's now
I know you don't want
dating.
to talk
She's
about it, but like it's a. I know she's
Travis
not dating
Kelce and
Travis
Taylor
Kelce.
Swift.
Being at the game and all the coverage
there.
and all the eyeballs, all the conversation, it's all about Taylor Swift. She's bringing half the audience, right? Is this just the same thing with Coach Prime? And like, is this a short-term thing? You know, after Coach Prime's been in college football at the highest level here, is it going to fade? But I just feel like that it's just Prime. It's nothing to do with the matchup at all. Colorado, you know, before Prime came, couldn't even draw like 1 million views.
I think it's NIL.
It's NIL.
Because now businesses can get directly involved, and he's using that. Dion knows how to use that better than others, but he's also kind of writing the blueprint for others. Like all these coaches, you're now they're showing off their talks in the locker room. There's now money is directly involved. They don't have to hide it. They don't need bagmen. You can just go straight in. You can get these guys, and if you're going to do that as a business, you want them to be as visible as possible, because then you're connected to them. So to me, it's NIL. It's money. It's all the above on that.
Yeah, it's
So,
just the fame of it, right? It's the Taylor
Mhm.
Swift effect, and like
Sure,
Deion Sanders is
absolutely.
a brand
And
like that, right? Like, and
Yep.
and so of course you're going to see this. How many people just tuned into that game to watch Deion? That's what my question is. Okay, so it's 10 million views, right? Is it 7 million views just for Deion? Is it 6 million? How many? Like Oregon draws typically about 2 or 3 million a game.
Yeah, it's probably
So
7
really,
or
this
8.
is all Deion Sanders
Well,
like
it's-
input, right? Like
It's half and half. Half of them want to see him get crushed. Half of them want to see him rise above.
Well, and
How-
Sergeant Pickles here, who's one of our paying members, he says, I cannot wait for CU to
There
get crushed
it
a
is.
couple more times. Well, they just got blown out. I mean, you can't do any worse than his team did on Saturday, and people still watch the game. And I don't think that's going to affect next week's viewing numbers either.
I do.
Do you really?
Yeah, now that he's lost, Keith Jackson used to say it best. Well, Nelly, sometimes the coach turns back into a pumpkin.
Right.
That's what happened here.
Yeah, they'll still have-
story's over for Colorado.
Mm.
They'll still
It's
have
so
good
high.
numbers. It's not going to be like this, but they'll still
Yeah.
have. It'll still be like 8 or 7, or I mean, it's still because there's still going to be people talking about this, and people who still want to see him get crushed by USC, and still people who want to see him bounce back. Or it's, I mean, what other story is going to take over? That's the thing. Now people are going to want a story. If you've got another story to take over, then I can see it. But if not, then they're going to persist.
Well,
That's
I
what-
think the biggest thing that's going to happen here is it's going to be diminishing returns for the rest of the season. They're going to
with
keep
every
getting
loss
beat.
too.
With every loss, they're going to keep getting beat. I mean, it's fun to look at new things and exciting things, and a lot of people tuned in the first game to see how Coach Prime would do, and he won. And people tuned into the second game to see if he could do it again. But I mean, eventually the newness wears off, and is he going to be able to build enough of a following for the Colorado program before that happens?
Here, I'll just say this real quick, and I know you guys probably want to get on this as well, but remember, they have 2 losses. They're going to get 2 losses. I mean, we're picking them as 6-6, or at least I was. So they're going to have losses to these teams, these bigger teams. But after that is the return of Travis Hunter at Arizona State, and that's a very winnable game. You have the big story of his return, and so the story picks right back up. I mean, it doesn't have to go that way, and maybe it does fall off like you're saying, but I'm just pointing out it could also just get picked right back up, because you have to have another story to replace this story. These networks are looking at these numbers and they don't want to see a drop. If that drops down, you don't have an equal corresponding rise from somewhere else, then it's a loss for them. So unless you got a better storyline to push, they're
But
still
I
going
think-
to try and push it.
I think that's what it is, though. I do believe it's one-off viewers. I don't think these are just CU fans. I think this is people that watch Survivor
Yeah.
tuning in to watch. I don't think they're even necessarily sports fans.
It's the Taylor Swift.
And if they get punked 4 more times in a row, even, it's going to be really tough for those numbers to hold.
Well, maybe,
I think they're all marshmallow stats. I don't think any of this is real.
But that's exactly what the networks want. They don't want just college football fans watching college football. They want it to grow. They want it to increase. So
yeah,
that's
but they're
why
not going
they're
to
going to
watch
push it.
this really bad
Yeah,
Colorado
but they're
team.
probably going to beat. It's not a really bad Colorado team. It's a team that's lost its number one guy. That
I think it may be a bad
all right,
team.
all right. I'm going to tell you this: they're going to beat Arizona State after that game, and then you watch how the media
Okay,
turns it right back
well,
up.
but you're assuming that Arizona State is good.
No, I'm not. I'm saying they're going to win. You just said they'd lose 4 in a row, and I'm saying no, they're probably not.
Oh, yeah, I don't even know who they play next. I was being silly.
But
I don't
okay.
know who they
All
play
right.
in the next.
I'm just
4.
trying to give like an honest
Yeah.
opinion on it, though, that I think that unless you have a better story to spin, the media is going to try and spin this story. And if
And
they
I think
get
you're right.
a win on Travis Hunter's return against Arizona State, they just kick it right back up.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Just imagine the bonanza next year when CU actually recruits another good cycle and they're actually good and they've got depth and they're in the Big 12. If you guys think it's already madness, but Bomber, this isn't going away.
I know.
If Prime is there, as long as Prime's there, the recruiting is going to get better. CU is going to be better, and they could be possibly top 10 good over like the next year or two, right, with more depth. And it's going to be crazy.
But it'll bring more eyeballs to the Big 12, though.
If they get O-line and D-line on the transfer portal, forget it.
Yeah,
they will.
That's all they're missing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Hey, one last thought with this. This is actually the most important graphic that we're going to show today. This sounds silly and stuff because we're looking at and talking about who won and lost.
Right.
But when it comes to realignment, when it comes to really significance, these viewership numbers are just as important or more important than any win or loss. It's crazy how valuable these are to really understanding college football and where it's going and where realignment shaking things.
Moen has a topic he wants to talk about. Go ahead, Moen.
Yeah, we were talking about the Oregon State-Washington State game that was broadcast nationally on Fox. Go up 2 slots above it.
Mm-hmm.
Rutgers at Michigan on the Big Ten network.
Right here. Yep.
Which is a non-national carrier.
Right.
Rated above it. So that goes to Wild Ute's point specifically about ratings and realignment. That is on Big Ten network. That does not have the clearance that Fox National does. Not anywhere close.
Well, and I find it interesting. Big Ten Network provides those, whereas the Pac-12 Network never did. Does every conference network provide those numbers? Is the ACC Network on here?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
No, because they don't ever have good numbers to show. Big Ten Network does because it has pretty good coverage across the country.
Okay.
You can get it anywhere, but here it's a little expensive. It's not top line, but
right. Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Bomber, we've got to keep showing this weekly. I'm sure we will and everything.
I'm
wondering if we can get data on the analytics for what schools pulling on an ongoing ongoing basis, really viewership numbers, so we can track it week by week to see Colorado, how many viewers for the season, right? Through 4 games, it's got to be 20, 30 million or whatever. It's nuts, but that's significant because we need to consider that and think about that, the scope of realignment and everything we're talking about with college football, because this is massive stuff.
You should save that one for Bob tomorrow, by the way.
Oh, definitely.
We definitely can do that. Let's focus now on Washington State, Oregon State, who we have adopted those programs on this show. First of all, I think they both did a wonderful job representing themselves and their schools in a wonderful way. The student sections were very strong. I thought that they represented the way that they do business really well. Outside of just the perception that these guys are kind of suffering right now, they're getting some positive PR. There hasn't been any news that's broken in the last 4 days per se, but what are you guys' feelings about how their narrative is currently going right now?
As far as the narrative on the momentum moving to the Big 12.
Big 12, yep.
I mean, this helps and stuff. That was a huge game, right? Being ranked and everything, and Oregon State eats a loss and they're still in the top 20. That's a big deal, right? That's respect and everything. So programs are growing programs. They pull good numbers and stuff. So they're in the conversation. We're talking about them on these type of shows, right? They're significant. So I think that just helps their cause. They want to be in front of the camera and want to be in the talking points all the time. And showing that's your mark, making the pitches and everything on how they can get into the Big 12 is going to be the way, but really just being significant and bumping the viewership numbers and winning games is going to be the biggest thing for both of those programs.
Before we go to Moen and Immaculate, if there's any Oregon State people in the wings right now, we have 10 minutes, and I would like to get somebody in here to talk to us for a second. If you want to join the show, call out your name down here on the bottom. In fact, you know what? I'll just say this. I'm going to put the invite out, but the invite is only for Oregon State or Washington State fans. If we have one of those fans that wants to join the show, I've just posted that in the comment section. Click on that link and join us for a minute. Immaculate or Moen, I don't care.
Go ahead, Moen.
On the same thread.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something. Lee Corso said it's the nobody wants us bowl, not the nobody watches bowl.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah,
I know. I saw that around Twitter. But yeah, everybody wants. I think it's a travesty that Oregon State and Washington State are not in a power conference, and SMU is based off of booster checkbooks. It's bullshit. But unfortunately, in America, money talks and bullshit walks sometimes. I mean, that's the way it is. But yeah, Jack Swarbrick made a real asshole of himself, standing up there, shaming everybody for Stanford and Cal being left out. But he was the first one to cut bait.
Yeah, he's
he
exclusionary.
Into the ACC, he could have got them in as well. He wasn't interested in doing it. So
nope.
I do believe Oregon State and Washington State wind up in the Big 12. I don't believe as many schools are leaving the ACC as people think. So I don't think there's going to be a glut of ACC schools available for the Big 12 to wait. So I do see them ending up in the Big 12.
Oh, we're going to talk about that, Moen. Oh, we're going to do some analysis on that too, because the Big 12 is about to pluck some ACC schools. I mean, if you're an ACC school out there,
let's go.
Your mark is licking his chops, and so is Wild Ute. So I can't
Immaculate.
wait.
Well, I'll just start and say, I try not to bring any of my emotions into my analysis when I'm looking at this. If I did, I'd hate all realignment, because realignment's about to kick Iowa's ass, and that's just how it is. And, but that doesn't change what's actually going to happen. So when I look at Oregon State and Washington State, up until recently, the unfortunate nature of realignment, I thought was you guys are going to get left out, and that sucks because you don't deserve it. I was not a big fan of Schultz. I was not impressed with anything that I saw going on in the pack before the breakup. But I got to admit, right now, I'm impressed. He's that man who's sitting in a room and everyone is just staring needles at him. And he's standing there in the breach. Even if Oregon State came up with this whole plan, I don't care. He's the man who has to stand there in front of that whole room that is not liking him. And he is holding this off. So good on him. Good on Washington State. They are desperate. We've seen their numbers on their athletic department. They need this. And for them to stand up and basically kind of turn the whole situation around with one move, with one win in court. And when you look at the numbers, it's kind of hard to think that they don't get this turned into a place in the Big 12. Now, I would be very cautious. Don't go too far with this. This is, we're pointing this out to guys. They're excited, but don't think too much on this. And don't think that this is a good long-term thing unless you leverage this for a position of security. Remember, as much money as that is, that's decades of pay from the Mountain West.
Right.
That is not a good long-term position. It's a good short-term leverage position. And hopefully that happens this week. For people who are wondering when, there's no better time than this week. Everyone is in the exact same room, can talk about this, can wheel, can deal, without having to make excuses or use middlemen or whatever the case. It can happen right now in Chicago. So don't be surprised if we're, on show tomorrow and we're starting to get announcements coming from there, because that's what it's looking like from the media, is that tomorrow is going to be a day of announcements. So don't be surprised if we get some announcement on this tomorrow. I am cautiously optimistic on that.
All right. We're going to, since we didn't have anybody from Washington State, Oregon State step up, we're going to pick a Pacific Northwester, but I'm putting them on notice, Sergeant Pickles. You're here to represent the two.
Wazoo.
Your Wazoo and Oregon State, not UW.
Well, if it helps at all, I'm pretty sure I have actually more Coug family members than Huskies, but
Then go for it.
I'll
You
do
got
my
it.
best.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I mean, obviously, and I'm trying to poke fun and take some shots at the Big 12 people. But I know that anyone like you guys who's been really paying attention to this knows that Oregon State and Washington State, when they get their house in order, not only can they put a good team on the field, they can pull their weight TV-wise and pull their weight in a conference.
Yep.
And I understand this is the era of you have to add value for all members, but I do have a hard time believing that they would be considered a below average member of a power conference at this current time. Hard to speak as much for the Beavs, but I think that they've been a little more vocal online about really pushing to get in a power conference.
Right.
I think they've had a more stable position. They don't necessarily have some of the financial issues that Washington State does. They have a new stadium. They've been on a trajectory of being a really good team for a few years now. Their coach is outstanding. His teams have always been super annoying to play against, even though the Huskies have done well against them recently.
Right.
And I think I don't totally understand the financial aspect of how much value they hold and whether ESPN would have to pay them some amount of money. But I just think that joining the Big 12 is kind of the clean solution for everything. I don't know your guys' thoughts about it.
Well, Pickles, actually have a question for you. So you have a lot of family members that are Wazoo alum fans, right?
Yep.
What's like the talking points right now? Like, what's the thinking? What's the thought process? What's going on amongst the Wazoo circles?
Rightfully so. I think they're just kind of focusing on the season. They've had about enough out of Pat Shun and Kirk Schultz just saying all sorts of wacky stuff. That's kind of been par for the course back to like Bill Moose days. The old AD they had would just say totally off the handle stuff that really painted the university in a bad way. And I think they finally have a good competitive team, to kind of focus on. It's kind of more just like I don't want to say apathetic because they care about their team in school, but it's more just like whatever happens. I'm looking at on the field, wherever we end up, I want to put a good team together and play well, especially with someone like Cam Ward.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's just a lot of apathy as far as the, leadership department goes. They've had their fair share of guys say crazy things over the years.
My
Gotcha.
best friend is a Wazoo graduate, and we grew up in the Tri-Cities, Richland specifically, but lower southeastern Washington area. And I can tell you right now, all the people that I talked to over in the last several months about Washington State, and there's some Oregon State up there working at the nuclear lab. They care deeply about staying relevant, and it's already wrote that they got left behind by the Pac-12, but I think they're looking at this as an opportunity to, if they can get the invite, to really excel if they can get into the Big 12. So that's really it's going to come down to. They just need the invitation.
I definitely think that's kind of the mindset. I mean, if you think about it, if you look at it in kind of the recruit rankings, I'm kind of a nerd for recruiting and looking at all that stuff. Washington State and Oregon State are recruiting against, though, the Iowa States, the, TCUs, the whoever. They're recruiting for the same caliber of players. It's not like these are some, JUCO rosters where they're not getting any talent. Yes, there may be a step below the Oregon, USC, Washington, level of recruiting, but they still get very talented guys. And I think that they would slot in really well into the Big 12, even in that way, where it's not like they're going to come in and struggle. I mean, it's hard for any team to change conferences, just ask Nebraska, but they're set up where I think it really wouldn't be that difficult of a transition for them. And yeah, especially with a good starting point that they're at now. I mean, Bomber, I know you and I were old enough to remember back to the Ryan Leaf days and,
of course,
going to the Rose Bowl. Like, they've had some killer teams in the past. It's not like they've been totally devoid of any success ever. They have had good teams here and there.
Washington State always kind of seems competitive. Like, even if they don't have any names, they always kind of seem to give a good game at least. And And really, that's what you need out of a partner in your conference. You just need them to not roll over and die. Like, you don't need them to be the
Right.
best team every year. You just need to know that if you have a team that's on a run, that's going for, trying to get into the playoff or whatever, and the team that they're playing against this week is Washington State, hey, we can put that on TV and it's going to be a good game.
Right. That's
Yeah,
fair.
They draw pretty good numbers. I've even seen some people kind of like you're talking about. They do the analysis where they kind of factor in the opponent and what network and what time slot. And Washington State is an above average Power 5 team for drawing TV numbers on like an apples to apples comparison. Even Oregon State is, they're not anywhere near the bottom. They hold their own. And it's kind of like you're saying, Wazoo. I mean, we always kind of joke with them about the whole little brother thing because Washington does tend to beat them in the Apple Cup, but they're never comfortable games. It's pretty rare that it's just it makes it very uncomfortable. And I think if I remember right, the year that Washington went to the playoff, Wazoo, I think ended up ranked 10th going into that game. So it's not like ancient history they've had, that they've been in the basement of the Pac-12. They have good teams and they can have good teams. Same for the Beavs. It's like a really tough outing. And, you get some of that East Coast bias and they're not ranked. And then you looked and you're like, oh, they held, they came within 7 points of beating Oregon. And then last year they beat Oregon in a crazy comeback that nobody saw coming, except for fans who know what it's like to play Oregon State.
Absolutely. I'll leave the last question with Moen.
Hey, Pickles. What are you more excited for next year? Which team are you most excited about playing next year if you're Washington State? Not
if you're
for
Washington State.
Washington State joins the Big 12. What team do you think they're most excited to play in the Big 12?
Let's remove their partner in crime in Oregon State because that'll always be a rivalry of sorts. BYU and Utah, I think for sure.
Okay.
There's a lot of crossover there. I'm sure Bomber can attest that the Mormon community runs strong all the way out here on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of old rivalries. I actually, if I remember right, I think Wazoo's played BYU sometime in the recent years. I may have that wrong, but BYU, weirdly, just on a tangent, has always been that team that was like halfway a Pac team. And I know that the leadership held them at arm's distance, but you played our schools every year. You always played
true.
Utah. You played every school up and down the West Coast. It's like, why aren't they over here? Anyways,
there's a lot that goes into that.
I think the Arizona schools, maybe to a lesser extent, just old Pac-12. If you're forcing me to pick one that wasn't in the Pac-12 before and excluding BYU, I would say like a Texas Tech. You got the Mike Leach connection there, the air raid offense. That would be a really fun one. I think there'd be some fun connections there. They love to throw the ball. They are old school Big 12, as much as that makes some fans cringe when we give them a hard time about, all offense, no defense. But that is how Wazoo plays. It's that they just sling it down the field 100 times. And if only 60 of them connect, you're still scoring 50 points. So it's a great spectacle to watch.
Very fair.
It's the anti-Big 12 immaculate. I'm sorry, you probably won't like it very much. Although Wisconsin apparently did not like it at all.
Yeah. But I think that was our warning shot. I think that we looked at that and went, oh, Wisconsin's bad. And really,
that's like the perception thing that I think really needs to change. Is like it may be like, oh, Wisconsin's not up to their normal standard, but Wazoo beat them in two very different scenarios.
A lot different than the Oregon State game, that's for sure.
Yeah, Wazoo beat them back-to-back years. It's like that's not just a fluke, or maybe Wisconsin might not be at their wanting to challenge for the Big Ten West title, but I do love that perception. That's kind of that's been the Pac story for maybe a decade is, oh, you upset this team. Well, that team just must not be very good this year.
See, and that's not fair. I hate that.
But that'll change.
I hate that.
If they were to be in the Big 12, which has ESPN pushing it,
right?
Yeah.
You'll be surprised when narratives all of a sudden change based upon who you're playing with and playing against. And so I think if they get in, look, there is some of the underdog effect. I think some empathy has now gone out towards Oregon State and Washington State over this. I think you've probably got some people call them bandwagon. I would say empathetic fans.
Yeah.
And so I would say going forward, because of what's happened, crazy as this is, and maybe, people might not like this, the Oregon State and Washington State brands have been improved because of what they've just now gone through with the pack. Like it or hate it, as a marketing, that's what I would say, that their value has actually gone up.
Yeah, they made good coaching hires and were on a good trajectory program-wise. So that I think it's just terrible that it coincided with, the year the Pac-12 fall apart. I actually think you still see this basically the same Pac-12 season, even without all the drama in the background, that we'd still be kind of culminating in this spot where we have really good teams. You have good coaches in place. A warning to Big 12 fans, if this does come to fruition, be prepared to see a full feature on Old Crimson at game day every week, whether you like it or not. They will talk about it until the end of time.
Love it.
Yeah, it is a very cool thing, but it's like, as a UW fan, I'm just like, does anyone know about Wazoo other than the Old Crimson thing? Hopefully in the future they do. Hopefully it's because they're good on the field, but for years, that was generally the only reason why people knew about, an agricultural school in Eastern Washington.
Right. Well, thanks, Pickles. Appreciate it. We got to wrap this up, but thanks for coming on and representing
Definitely.
Washington State and Oregon State to a lesser extent. I'm inviting other people. If you guys want to be part of the community and you want to talk and get your ideas out, feel free to join us when we have time, because we very much value your opinions. And Pickles, thanks for being a subscriber. I really appreciate all the support you've given to me and to Ute and all of us on the shows. And we really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Last one, Moen. Roma Dunze, #1. Go Dogs.
Purple Dogs.
Parting shots are always good.
All right. So we went a little bit long. I didn't give Moen his 2 or 3 minute rant. Do you want to take advantage of that right now,
I
Moen?
would love to.
Go ahead. I haven't forgotten about you, buddy.
Coaches on 4th and 1, 4th and short, 3rd and short, run the damn ball up the middle. You don't need a bubble screen. You don't need some reverse triple play flea flicker to pick up 1 yard. Run the ball up the middle. It's easy. You snap to the left, to the right, up the middle. This is not, you don't need to have some computer sciences degree to draw up some play to get you 1 or 2 yards. Clemson, you had a fullback that was averaging 7 yards a run, and you needed 2, and you let Garrett Riley convince you to throw a bubble screen? You give the ball to that guy and let him ball. Ohio State, you did the same thing in that Notre Dame game. I get it. Emeka Egbuka's fast, but you know what? You don't need a fast guy to get you 1 or 2 yards. You need a big guy. Send him right up the middle. The old Pete Johnson play. Take 245 pounds and just ram it in there. And they're in.
There you go.
Okay. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry I cut you short before. We were in the middle of a topic and I didn't want to lose track of that. So I appreciate that. Everybody tip a hat to Moen for his new soundboard. And yeah, I appreciate you being the AV guy in the background for the show.
I love that Jayhawk sound too, Moen. I love it.
Fantastic. All right. Really quick, 1 minute outs. Let's start with you, Ute.
Yeah, big game this Friday here, Oregon State, Utah. It's a pivotal game to see who's going to win. Really, it's going to have major impacts on who's going to win this Pac-12 conference. You just got to get it done, hoping for Rising's return back. No guarantee he's going to play, though. It's probably not. So it's going to be Nate Johnson playing in that game. So Utah are dogs in it. So I'm hoping that they get the dub. Big game. Let's get it done.
Very good. Thank you. Moen.
Yeah, Buckeyes are on a bye this week, so I am going to officially put my weight behind the Kansas Jayhawks.
Yeah, I'm with you
Texas.
there for sure. All right, I guess immaculate.
All right, well, guys, be watching tomorrow. Could be a very, very interesting day. That being said, I'm going to do my little rant about Iowa. Ferentz, Kirk Ferentz, you have been an institution. And all I have to say about that is do not ruin your legacy. Retire at the end of this year. It's been a great run, but it needs to end. That's it.
Very good. Thank you for that. As far as that goes, everybody, thank you for being here tonight. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new to the channel. Leave us a comment or suggestion. We try to respond to those. And then also turn on your notifications on Facebook. Sorry. Whoa, that was bad. On Twitter, X, and on YouTube. Where none of us are ever doing Facebook. So
is Facebook even around anymore?
I want to edit that out anyway.
There's no edits live.
I appreciate everybody being here tomorrow night. Again, Bob Thompson, 8:30 Eastern, p.m. Eastern time tomorrow night. Bob Thompson will be here, and maybe we'll tie him to his chair so he can't leave.
Hopefully the stars align and give us some great content to ask him about.
And then follow us all on Twitter in the next 24 hours. There might be some big news coming out of the negotiations for the continuing negotiations for the college football playoff. Other than that, I'm Nathan Bomber Brown. He is the Wild Ute. Immaculate View and Moen Sports. Everybody have a great night. Drive safe and stay out of trouble. Peace.